Hey everyone, welcome to the Best Movies channel. In this video, I'm going to introduce a film by Roman Polanski. An Officer and a Spy is a 2019 historical drama film directed by Roman Polanski about the Dreyfus affair, with a screenplay by Polanski and Robert Harris based on Harris' 2013 novel of the same name. Before we get into the film itself, it's important to take a quick look at some key moments and aspects of Roman Polanski's life. Don't forget, he was a Jewish kid who somehow managed to escape the Nazis during World War II, despite going through a lot of displacement and hardship. Sadly, his mother didn't survive and died in a labor camp. His Jewish identity was more like a label stamped on his forehead, something that caused him trouble. Much like the symbolic label we see on Dreyfus's forehead in Polanski's film An Officer and a Spy. But as for strong religious beliefs, neither Polanski himself nor the character Dreyfus in the film seem particularly committed to Judaism. Now, if we trace his bumpy journey as a filmmaker, from his studies at the famous Lodz Film School all the way to his brilliant breakout with Rosemary's Baby, we eventually get to one of the darkest chapters of his life: the murder of his second wife, Sharon Tate. While Polanski was working on a film in the UK, a pregnant Sharon Tate was brutally killed in their Los Angeles home by members of the Manson family. It's said the murder happened by mistake, they weren't even targeting her. And then we come to the most controversial part of Polanski's life, the incident that still follows him to this day, his case involving a 13-year-old girl named Samantha. He served part of a sentence, but in 1977, when he felt the judge in his case was trying to derail his life and career, he fled the US and never returned. That case is still open even now. Alright, let's dive into the story. In 1894, Alfred Dreyfus, captain in the French army, is found guilty of high treason for passing military secrets to the German Empire. He is condemned to exile on Devil's Island. His affair triggers an echo in France since Dreyfus is Jewish. 1 year later, Officer Georges Picquart, Dreyfus' former teacher, is appointed head of the Secret Service section in the French army. The man, despite alleged anti-Semitic sentiments, is aware that the trial against Dreyfus was summary and biased by Dreyfus' Jewish origins. Noticing some irregularities in the dossier of the affair, he decides to conduct an investigation to verify Dreyfus' guilt. Picquart discovers that the so-called bordereau, the document that ostensibly proves his guilt, was not written by Dreyfus, as the graphologist Alphonse Bertillon had claimed, but by another soldier, Major Ferdinand Walson Esterhazy. According to Picquart, he is the real spy, but the evidence has been prejudiced or even falsified to the detriment of Dreyfus. Picquart is convinced of Dreyfus' innocence and tries to reopen the trial to exonerate him and arrest Esterhazy, but meets the opposition of his superiors. Admitting Dreyfus' innocence would result in a great scandal that would lead to the discovery of corruption in the army, while the man, as a Jew, is the perfect scapegoat. Picquart is then removed from office and sent on a mission far from Paris. However, he manages to return and tell everything to his friend, the lawyer Louis Leblanc, who begins to organize a committee for the rehabilitation of Dreyfus, involving his colleague Fernand Labori. Members of the parliament and intellectuals, including the famous author Émile Zola. Picquart's insubordination leads to his arrest, but on the same day Zola publishes in the newspaper L'Aurore the article entitled J'accuse, where he fiercely criticizes the irregularities of the trial of Dreyfus and exposes all the people involved in the case. Zola, on a complaint from the government, is tried for defamation and, due to the false declarations made in the courtroom by the soldiers called to witness, the writer is sentenced to 1 year in prison. While the whole of France is divided between innocent and guilty parties, the intellectuals signing the pro-Dreyfus petition are targeted for popular hatred. Later, after losing a duel against Picquart, Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Joseph Henry, who had testified against Dreyfus, admits he perjured himself, and dies shortly after, apparently by suicide. Following Henry's depositions, Picquart is acquitted and released, while Dreyfus is repatriated for a second trial which occurs in Rennes in 1899. Shortly before the decisive hearing, the lawyer Labori suffers an assassination attempt and is unable to defend Dreyfus. The man is sentenced again, but the sentence to be served is made lighter by the recognition of the extenuating circumstances. Immediately, the Prime Minister grants Dreyfus a pardon. Picquart would like to continue fighting to prove his innocence, but Dreyfus, exhausted, accepts it. 7 years later there will be full acquittal and reintegration into the army. In 1907, Picquart is appointed Minister of War, also thanks to the recognition of the judicial error to the detriment of him. Dreyfus asks him for an audience and protests because the years in which he has unfairly served his sentence have not been recognized, preventing him from reaching the rank of lieutenant colonel. Picquart cannot make this concession to him as the political climate has changed again, which causes Dreyfus outrage. The two men part from each other with respect, never to see each other again. But the end of the film isn't really about Dreyfus's innocence. It's about the ongoing cycle of injustice. Dreyfus, a Jewish man, returns to the French army and even becomes the aide to the Minister of War. But he's unhappy with his rank, his years in prison weren't counted, and now he's just a major when, had he stayed in the army, he would have been a colonel. Dreyfus complains to Picquart, but Picquart doesn't do anything, even though it's pretty clear that Dreyfus's complaint is justified. That's the bitter ending Polanski gives his characters. The film could have ended on a triumphant note, with Dreyfus's full acquittal and redemption, but instead, Dreyfus remains an outsider in an anti-Semitic society. The discrimination against him continues. And that's what Polanski is accusing in his film, discrimination. An officer and a spy portrays prejudice and the pain it causes more powerfully than many of the socially conscious films that have been praised and awarded in recent years. But this film, it was mostly ignored by critics and festivals. Why? Because Polanski, in a way, is like Dreyfus himself. He too is a target of judgment, and there's no Picquart around to save him. And finally, I hope you will see this movie completely and enjoy watching it. I would be happy if you could comment your opinion about this movie.